Welcome back to the Hot Mess to Awesomeness podcast, a show all about inspiring smart, busy women to put their happiness at the top of their to-do list. Join your host and life coach, Dion Thompson, as she chats with amazing women who have figured out how to make their happiness a priority, and more importantly, what it's really like to go from hot mess to awesomeness. And now, on with the show.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. That dance party today was awesome and got me totally jazzed. I was in the process, doing my thing, shaking my ass, going, what is it about this? And a guest I had on previously, Michelle, but she had talked about sort of different personality types, and I'm a captivator in the world of facial intelligence. And so it's no big surprise that I love me a good dance party so that I can get myself in that space, right? And so I was thinking about that. I'm like, but there's something about, and I'm clearly no expert, but I know what I feel, that just being able to move. We've talked a lot about how movement is obviously very therapeutic in its own way, but having people with me. So no, we're not at a club. No, we're not at a wedding, which is where old people dance now. So once every 3 years. I hope I can come to yours if that is how the world works. But anyway, but being in a space with people that we enjoy their energy, and the people who are here right now, I love you guys. And Kimberley, I was thinking a lot about what we're going to be talking about today, being an intuitive sort of maven, if you will. And I started to, it was like this fabulous slap in the face. I'll go with that. But I was doing my thing, and all of a sudden I started to feel this wash of confidence and capability, and like I canness, and it was because you were here. So you in my life have been such an anchor and such a support and a believer, and just you being you allowed me to remember that. And for the past little while, that's not where I've been, and I don't think a lot of us have been walking around in super confident state because of the world as it stands. And I don't know if it was the dancing or, I don't care. It was awesome. And I feel sweaty fabulous right now. So thank you. Thank you for being a believing mirror in my life. And we haven't spoken in a while, and the world has turned and things have happened. And, but just your presence, it brought me back to that space. So frick, man, that's some powerful intuitive shit. So before we get going to learn a little bit more about Kimberley Banfield, my beautiful guest today, my friend, I wanted to sort of drop a little bit of knowledge on you guys today. So I've been having a lot of downloads. So with all of this expansion and sort of facing these fears and walking through them, there's been a lot of world is sort of opened up, especially in my reflective time in the morning, which is sort of like my own kind of meditative practice. And I've been thinking a lot about taking these beautiful conversations and sharing them with the world, because I think every time I experience this opportunity to connect in community, for these sort of live podcast recordings, if you will, shifts happen. And I think that there's a lot of good energy created here, if you believe that energy can be created, but physics says it can't. So let's just say we're attracting a lot of great energy. So I have kind of landed on a official podcast. And so you'll be seeing that rolling out over the next few interviews as I'm connecting with all of these beautiful folks and recording their beautiful voices. I will be transferring the audio out into the podcast space. And so this podcast is going to be going from a hot shitty mess to effing awesomeness. That's the name of my podcast. So I want, and it's still 100% the break that every busy woman deserves. Because I believe that coming into this space for 45 minutes to be able to be reminded that there are brave, brilliant, busy women tackling the feelings of stuck and pissed off and resentful and shame and blame and all of that shit. And that there are ways that we can move forward with clarity, confidence, and courage, which I know Kimberley is going to be talking about today. And these are women in our community, like real life people. And although I would be more than happy to have Mel Robbins or Brene Brown on my podcast, for the time being, I am honored to be able to sit down and talk with beautiful, beautiful souls who are on this journey of their own. And yes, it is unique, but it is through these shared experiences that we can all rise up, which I really think is so important for those of us who fall into the should pit, and need to be reminded that we can shine our brilliant light. So that being said, welcome, my friend. So Kimberley, I'm going to give your official introduction, because I could introduce you with my heart all day long. But Kimberley is a Soulcologist, which brilliant, by the way, and a soul purpose expert. As an intuitive mentor, speaker, and teacher, she guides and supports entrepreneurs, explorers, and everyday women to find the clarity, confidence, and courage to listen to their intuition, heal past experiences, and find and fulfill their soul's purpose. Goosebumps, ladies. And what she loves the most is helping women to make their life a moment that matters, which that is brilliant. And I'm so honored to have you here today to chat a little bit about going from the hot mess of shittiness to the effing awesomeness of happy, authentic living. So welcome.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here with you again. It's like, it has been a while since we've chatted, and so much has shifted in the world. And, you know, I've spent, I don't know, the last couple of weeks just like going through in my mind, okay, like who did I get to see in the last X amount of months that I may not get to see in person again for a while? And you were one of those people. And I was just like, oh, thank goodness. Especially now that, you know, we're not going to see each other at 100 Women on Fire at the end of April, sadly. And so, you know, here's hoping I don't have to wait until October to see you. I'm totally okay with seeing you way before then. But it's nice to know that at least we have one date in the future.
Yes. Thank you. And that being said, wise women say, just as a pause to sort of jump into a completely other topic, I'm going to be launching in sort of an online version of that very soon. So those of you who are in the Wise Women community, I'm going to try to stay as true to the circle as possible, as much as technology will allow, which I found out we can do just about everything, maybe even the eyeball thing. I don't know. I'm going to have to test that. So stay tuned for that. So we may be able to join you more, or have you join us back into the Wise Women Circle sooner rather than later. So that would be fabulous.
Yes, please.
Mm-hmm. So Kimberley, lovely. Your journey is, to me, extremely inspiring and motivating. And what I appreciate most about your story and the way that you share it with the world is that you don't hold back and you don't hide the shit, which I think is so important when we're talking about how we get from A to B. And so, yes, a lot of us are seeing different types of successes in our lives, but to honor the journey that brought us there, I think is so crucial. So I would love for you to share with us a little bit about your journey, what brought you to this space as a soul purpose expert and soulcologist and all the other beautiful things that you are, and really sort of, I know that the intuitive space is really where you've landed, and I'd love to hear more about that.
I guess, you know, I did all the things that I was meant to do and told I should do. All the things that were in society you guarantee to bring me happiness and success and, you know, wealth, I suppose, to a certain extent, and I don't know, accolades and whatever it was that they told me that I should want, as I was going through high school and university too, to an extent, sadly. I had the high-flying corporate career for 10 years, and I worked my way up really quickly, and I did what I thought my family wanted me to do and thought I should do, in order to make the family name look good and to keep my dad happy and, show my mom how smart I was and so on and so forth. Except that it made me completely miserable. And it was something that certainly towards the end of my corporate career was completely and utterly soul destroying, to the point where it wasn't that I didn't want to be here, on the planet. It was that I didn't know where I wanted to be, and I didn't understand why it was that I had been born during this time if I was going to be in the corporate space in something that I wasn't happy in. And it took a number of experiences that, led to a significant decline in my mental health, in terms of things that happened in the corporate space in order for me to wake up, if you will, and ask myself for the first time ever when I was 29, what do I want to do? What do I think I should be doing, rather than what does everybody else think that I should do? And that was a massive revelation to me, because that was a completely new thought. And I had it in a yoga class when my yoga instructor at the time, I used to go to yoga to, as I talked about at Women on Fire last year, to, start my day well so that I could handle my corporate career and I could figure out who I needed to be that day in order to get through the day. Because, there were multiple masks involved with being corporate Kim. And the instructor said something like, about asking yourself what you wanted to do. And it just twigged in me in a different way than it ever had before. And I lay there and I burst into tears, because I was like, I don't think that I've ever asked myself, what do I want to do? The question I always asked myself was, what does everybody else want me to do? What does everybody else think is a good idea? What does everybody else think that I'm good at? Rather than actually properly tuning into what I wanted to do and what I felt I was good at, or even not good at. Who cares if I'm good at it or not? What do I want to do? So that started to lead to a big shift that capitalized in an experience when I was offered a senior management position within the emergency services organisation I worked in back home in Melbourne. And my intuition right from the get-go had said, no, you don't want this position, you don't want to do it, it's not for you. And I told everybody around me I don't want to do it. If I say I'm going to do it, tell them to tell me to say no, remind me that I don't want to do it. And yet when it came down to it, in the moment when the position was offered to me, I said yes, when every other part of my being was saying no. And that was a pattern that had played out across the course of my life, through not just in the workspace, but in the relationship space, that, of course, led to bad relationships and bad experiences. And it wasn't until that moment where I finally got it, because that soul part of me, physically, literally, everything left my body. Like it was like someone had taken a physical piece of me, pulled it out from my body, and then, like an angry teenager, it stormed out of the room, slammed the door behind me, and yelled out loud, "When you're finally ready to listen, maybe then we'll come back." And I left and I was super excited that I was going to do the position, because, she had someone to fill the gap, and she planned out my whole entire corporate career from that point onwards. And I just sat there feeling really hollow and empty in this, because she didn't make me say yes. I made myself say yes. I was the one who kept making myself do things that I didn't want to do and be in places that I didn't want to be in, and was effectively shutting out that intuitive part of me that had been sending me really obvious messages for quite some time. So I knew then that things had changed.
I apologize. I
What
missed
else
the
can I?
last little thing. My screen froze just a smidge. I just missed the last thing. Although I'm familiar with the extent of that journey, and that I remember you telling me about that moment when your soul was like, "See ya, we're not being a part of this. We're out." So yeah. What did you do then? I guess is the next logical question.
The interesting thing about it was, after I said yes to that position, I actually had 2 weeks leave booked in, and I was going to Bali on a boot camp retreat. One of the other things that I thought I should do back then for my health and fitness that I really didn't have to do at all. But that gave me the time and space to look back on it and go, okay, why did you do that? And what makes you keep doing that? And what can you do? What can you start to do differently? And as much as I wanted to just go back to work afterwards and tell them, I actually can't do this, you're going to have to find somebody else, it was important to me to do my due diligence in that space, and at least, take them through, we were going through budget time at that point, take them through the budget time, do what I could do in that space to set my team up, and then resign after that. And I definitely had a few times, it took me 6 months to resign, and I definitely had some time during that where I went, it's not so bad, I can do this, I could keep doing this for the rest of my life, maybe. No, I can't. Yes, I can. And all of these fears and wonderings in terms of, well, what am I going to do if I don't work in corporate? Like, where is my income going to come from? How am I going to pay my rent? What am I going to do to, set myself up for the potential for a family later on? And all of these things, and, kept coming back to that kind of safety net crutch of, a corporate career. And it's interesting now with everything that's happening, all the deeper learnings I'm getting in that space around, exactly how secure is that. It is, but it isn't, like everything. And it took another couple of pretty, how can I say this without sounding super judgmental? I guess I can just say it. It took I worked in the male-dominated industry, and it took a couple more quite significant chauvinistic experiences for me to actually say to myself, I don't have to do this. I don't have to put up with this, and I don't want to. So I'm not going to. And I decided that my 30th birthday gift to myself would be resigning. And so that's what I did. I resigned. I gave 4 weeks notice. And actually in about 2 weeks' time, and I think actually last time, one of the times I spoke at Women on Fire was actually the 4 or 5 year anniversary of leaving. It will be 6 years since I've left the corporate space. In about 2 weeks' time. So I'm pretty glad that I'm not still there.
Yes.
But it definitely took some deep reflection, and also too some really deep trusting that I'd be able to figure it out, and that I'd have the trust and the support of the universe as well to help me to figure it out, because I knew it was something that I couldn't do on my own, and I knew it was something that required me to kind of take this giant leap of faith, not knowing how I would land or where I would land or even if I would land.
Right.
And it's definitely been a bit of a wild ride since then.
No doubt. What I'm thinking of as you're sharing what you had gone through 6 years ago now, I mean, aside of the actual sort of meat and potatoes of your story, you literally transplant that experience to the now for so many people. And what I've been hearing a lot in my conversations with my clients is this feeling that there's like a reversion back to old behaviors. It almost feels like this level of unknown in front of us is so vast compared to what we're used to feeling challenged by. And as a result, we're going way back to patterns that we felt have long since disappeared. Have you noticed anything of that nature within yourself or your clients? And if so, what are you doing? What tools are you tapping into? What are you engaging with to keep yourself moving forward?
One of the things that's definitely an old habit and pattern for me, and I was actually talking about this with my partner during the week, and then created a series of exercises around it that I'll share here for sure, is numbness. Mm-hmm. So when I feel unsafe, when I feel unsure, when I feel like I'm at risk in some way, shape, or form, I disconnect and I go numb. And I go into this shell-like space where I'm not connected to my heart space. The walls go up like iron castle kind of thing. And I communicate from this space of even like just monotonous, where everything is just like autopilot, and it's completely a survival mode mechanism. But it's also something that stops me from feeling the uncertainty and the unsafeness and the insecurity around, well, what's happening and why is it happening and where's my place in all of this, and what does it mean, not just right now, but what does it mean for the direction of where I'm heading in the future.
Right.
And it's something that, the numbness has not been around for a very long time. So it kind of surprised me when I found myself sitting in that space. My body's a lot more tense when I'm numb, and I become emotionless, which for me did harken back to my corporate days and, other times in my life when relationships have broken down, when my parents split up, all of those sorts of times where numbness showed up. And I thought I'd got it to a point where I could identify when it would come up and be able to stop it, before it really showed up. But it definitely showed up last week, sort of in the last sort of week or so, in quite a big way. And it took a disagreement with my partner, because, silly disagreements happen right now while we're living so much closer together, for me to realize, oh, this is showing itself again. So it was something that, one of the first questions I asked myself in that space was, am I okay with being in this space? Because if I'm okay with being in this space, then I don't actually necessarily need to do anything with it right now, because I need to spend a little bit more time in it for whatever reason. And I don't need to know the answers to that. I just need to know how much time to spend in it and when is the time to come out of it. But it was quite apparent to me that the answer, was no, it's not somewhere that I need to be. It was an old thing that had shown up, and it was time for me to actually come back into my heart space, because in order for me to be able to serve in the way that I want to serve right now during this time, being in my heart space is a key part of that.
Right. Your story and the process that you went through, it resonates with me to the point of it mirroring vividly a lot of my experiences. And again, people that I've been connecting with that idea of numbing, and I found myself going, how am I here And same thing, you know, when will I be leaving here again? Because I don't think this is where I'd like to stay. And I too had an interesting disagreement with my husband. And while in the middle of it, I went, ugh. And like, I felt like having an out of body or a split personality. I went, I'm sorry. I don't know what that was just 3 seconds ago, but that was not, and I can tell you where it's coming from now. It's coming from a place of fear. It's coming from a place of unknown. And he was just like, oh, okay, sure. Right. Yeah. And, so I can appreciate the journey. But what tools would you say you tapped into to recenter yourself into your heart space? What did you rely on? I know for me, it's journaling and reflective practice, and music is a big deal for me, and connecting to that space. So what would you say that you tuned into to get you back to the place you want to be?
There are a couple of things. One is definitely music. You know, I use music as a way to get reconnected to things that I'm perhaps afraid to feel myself. So I will feel them through music, which will then inadvertently bring me back into that space in a safe way. And I'll move through this progression from music that expresses how I'm feeling when I can't, and then it will slowly lift its way up from there.
Yeah.
So, you know, my choice of songs this morning was this afternoon rather, was reflective of, you know, that's the space that I'm in now.
Yes.
So the other tools that I used were definitely meditation. A lot of time was spent in meditation, but in different ways. So sometimes I would sit in the morning and I would meditate, you know, using either my own meditation, the fire one that I've talked about previously, or I would use some of Joe Dispenza's, or I'd go out walking in nature and I would do walking meditations and, you know, just explore the local area on my own. One of the biggest tools for me, though, was actually a divine download, as I like to call them, that I received about not only this time in terms of, you know, the coronavirus and COVID, but also in terms of coming back into the heart space in general, and thinking about, well, what does a heart need? You know, what is the heart looking for? What is a heart all about? And it led to this download of a thing that I'm now calling the Corona Code, or the coronary code, if you will, because it's totally applicable to right now, but it's also applicable to, you know, every other time that you get disconnected and thrown out of your heart space through, you know, situations like this, or through, you know, other stresses and so on that happen when life is whatever normal looks like, you know, for you. So I sat down and just wrote out this information that was being given to me around basically how to get back into your heart space. And it gave me three things to do in that space. So I can run you through what they are.
Cool.
If you like.
I would love that. And then I will jot them down. And if it's all right with you, I will share them when I post this video for those of you watching it a little bit later. So if you're not a writer while you're listening, just listen.
To support it, supply it, and surround it are affirmations, affection, and affluence. Because when you're affirming things to yourself and giving yourself affection, you're back into a space of care. When you are giving yourself affection and sitting in a place of affluence, and I'll explain exactly what I mean by that shortly, then you're back into a connection with your heart space. And then when you're affirming and you're sitting in a place of affluence, you're back into a space of considering your heart rather than, you know, pushing it to the side or ignoring it completely through numbing. And what that does is all three of these things together bring you back into that heart-centered space and back into a place of love. And that's love of self, as well as an ability to receive love from others as well. And it also means that the energy you put out into the world is love filled too, rather than being fear and stress filled.
Beautiful.
So the affirmations are emotional support or encouragement. And what these statements are all about is respecting and recognizing you. So they're I am statements. So things like, I am strong, I am safe, I am capable, I am loving, I am, a good partner, I am taking care of myself, whatever it is that respect and recognize who you are and what you're doing, either in this moment or in general. It doesn't matter which one it is, but it's a really anchoring statement that brings you back into what is rather than what isn't. Because so much right now, it's so easy to go, I'm not this, or I can't do this, or, because of something outside of me. Whereas the I am statements bring you back into you and are a really nice way to get really grounded again.
Awesome.
Affection is about bringing back that fondness and that liking and that tender care for you. And this is about appreciation and acknowledgement of you. So this is I love statements. So things like, I love myself, I love my body, I love being able to move and dance, I love my crazy dance moves, I love how creative I am during this time, I love that I can take extra time with my partner, with my kids, I love whatever it is that you love. So those type of statements bring back that care and that connection, and they also allow you to speak appreciation, which is a universal language and something that the universe responds to as well. So it's an important one to show yourself. It's kind of like giving yourself a little bit of a heart hug, basically. That's what I like to refer to them and think of them as, because they're usually heartwarming statements. And then lastly, affluence is about flowing abundantly and being in a having. So again, it's so easy right now to sit in the space of, I don't have this, I don't have access to that, I don't have the ability to do this, and throw all of the power away from you and leak it out, rather than sitting in a space of gratitude and the greatness of you and enoughness. So affluence is about I have statements. And it can be as simple as, I have everything I need right now. I have food to put dinner on the table. I have kind neighbors who do X, Y, Z and check in on me. I have thoughtful children. I have the ability to adapt right now. I have whatever it is that you have, things that celebrate and draw attention to the fact that you are enough, this time is enough, you have enough right now, regardless of what's going on outside of you. And the gratitude around being able to recognize what you have, again, is universal language, and the universe responds to that. But it also means that you're open to receiving more as well, because you can see and you can experience what it is that you have right now. And again, that brings the heart back into a space of, I can calm down and come back to center, because I'm not freaking out and sitting in fear of all the things that I don't have or might not have or can't have right now. It's like, no, actually, I have things, I have abilities, I have emotions, I have whatever it is that you have. Making that statement of what you have, again, is really centering and really anchoring and can ground you back into you and back into your heart space. And it connects and brings back that consideration.
Beautiful. That was brilliant. And I love the way your brain works. And I love that I was in WLA, so I can see those models in my head.
Right?
And absolutely, and the flow is brilliant, and the message is so attain, like achieve, like I can touch that and I can hold on to that. And that is something that I think everybody who's listening, watching, taking what they can from this, there's something you can walk away from and go, I can do those things. And keep that focus and offer up to the universe words that are in alignment with how I want to show up in the future, like with what it is that I'm trying to, I don't know where it is that I'm stepping into, but I know when I get there, I want to feel X, Y, and Z. And that the affirmations, affection, and affluence, that to me, and this, the I am, the I love, and I have, that makes perfect sense. And truly in alignment with me and you and so many other beautiful souls who are supporting men and women to make some shifts in their lives. And I love that you've included in that celebration component, because I think for me and the women that I work with, that is one of the number one things that gets missed, is that self-celebration, even beyond the external. With, you know, it's you can see I have these things and that makes me feel happy, and I have these people in my life, and that's great. But the internal I haves, you know, I have strength and I have power and I have self-love, and is brilliant.
Yeah, it's something that, you know, with so much, like externally, there's so much disorder and distrust going on right now from multiple different angles and avenues, and there's a lot of, you know, dis-ease associated with that. So these three things, like the affirmations, are designed to bring back order, affection is designed to bring back trust, and affluence is designed to bring back ease. And so, you know, when you're sitting in a space of disorder, distrust, and dis-ease, then using one of these, I mean, they can all do each of these things, right? But essentially, you know, the way that the information was gifted to me was that, you know, affirmations create order, affection creates trust, and affluence creates ease, especially when you consider the context of the heart and the way in which it responds to things.
Brilliant. So how can individuals who are interested in reconnecting with their heart space, how can they connect with you? Because I know this was a very recent divine download. So how can they access this now? This information, access to you if need be. Yeah.
So there is actually two parts to this. The first one I did in my Facebook group, The Intuitive Woman, last week. So I actually did a Zoom Facebook Live into the group talking about part one, which is what we just talked about. And then the second part of it, I'll do a Facebook Live on this week in my group, which is actually about, okay, well, now that you know what it is that you have to do, how do you do that? And it talks about becoming, you like my play on words, it talks about becoming a heartner. There's a partner, but then there's a heartner. So it talks about becoming a heartner of yourself, and, you know, what it takes to be able to do that. So that will be going live this week in the Intuitive Woman Facebook group. That's the best place to connect with me right now. And, you know, it's where you can find other like-minded intuitive souls as well.
Yes, it's a fabulous group. So I'll make sure to post a link to that, and if individuals are interested, they can request to join. Fabulous. Oh, I'm all bubbly, and I'm still feeling like unicorn sparkles. So,
and I'll just answer Kelly. Kelly, it's The Intuitive Woman.
Okay. And like I said, Cal, I'll make sure that the link is there. And if you can't find it, message me. We'll figure it out. Hi, Isaac. Oh, fabulous. So because you have, you are part of the Wise Women Say community, you are a woman on fire, and you are so many other fabulous things. What would you say, or what, I don't want to say advice, but what would you share with a woman who is in that space and is sort of ready to embrace and ignite their awesomeness, their woman on fireness, what would you share with them as the guiding piece?
You know, the thing that dropped in as soon as you said that was get to know yourself, and don't stop getting to know yourself. Because so often on this journey, it's so easy to follow your intuition once and then go, cool, I did it.
Yeah.
And then not do it again, or start in that space. And it takes this, you know, the relationship that you have with your intuition it's very much reflective of the relationship that you have with yourself. And in fact, the more that I learn about it, the more I realize they're actually exactly the same thing. So the more, funny about that, the more that you're willing to get to know you, and I mean all of you, you know, the good, the bad, the light, the dark, the shadow side, all of those elements, the more deeply you'll understand your intuition and the way in which it communicates with you, and the more of a deeper understanding you'll have around why you are here right now in this moment, and why that's important. And it's not necessarily like important in terms of oh my God, I'm going to take over the world, Oprah style type, you know, level of importance. It's whatever that is for you, because all of those things are important, and none is more or less important. It just is important. And so never stop getting to know you, because there's always more to find out, and there's always more awesomeness to uncover, even when you think it's not awesome. Like, it actually is awesome, and the fact that you're willing to go there is awesome as well. So never ever ever stop getting to know you.
I love that. And again, universe, you know, one of my recent downloads was, you know, be you first. And part of what I'm experiencing, and what a lot of women in my world are experiencing, is this idea of like role overwhelm, because of course all of the pieces of ourselves are on top of each other right now, and we can get very inundated with the to-dos that exist within each role, and forget that we are not the roles. I am not mom, I am Dion, and I'm a mother, and I am not business owner. I am not just these categories of things with their own very specific to-do lists. And in order to decrease that level of overwhelm, I get to pick and choose how I fill my day with the bits and pieces from all my roles, because I am me, and this is what I need. And creating a deeper and more trusting relationship with myself, and getting to know myself better, helps me to pick out, you know, out of the mom list, I'm going to do 1, 2, and 7. And out of the biz list, I'm going to do 13 and 22, because that's what I, as Dion, needs. And as we had mentioned it before, this idea of disconnection. So when we face fear and the unknown and change and doubt, we, some of us have this natural tendency to sort of run those disconnection patterns. And I personally believe there are 5 in total, of which I sort of interweave generously. Numbing is definitely one of my top go-to shitty behaviors. And there is leaky boundaries, if they exist at all, perfectionism, people pleasing, and the imposter syndrome. And, you know, they show up in different ways at different times. But you're right. The more we get to a clear picture of who we are, what we want, what we need to fill our souls, the more we can recognize and sort of cut those patterns off, because we know that it's not in alignment with how we want to show up tomorrow and the next day and the next day, or you know, 3 months from now, 10 months from now, who knows what the world will look like. But knowing yourself more allows you to see how those patterns are running and going, well, you know what, I don't think I want to be here, and I get to choose to not be here anymore. Brilliant.
Yeah, and it's something that definitely, you know, in relation to everything that's happening with COVID right now, I noticed, again, last week was like a week of revelations, that, you know, I had this pattern of blaming, COVID is the reason why I can't do this. COVID is the reason why I can't do that, et cetera, et cetera. And then realizing, hang on a second, hang on. Like, yes, that might be an external reason behind things, but that's not actually the energy that I want to sit in. I don't want to sit in a COVID energy space. I don't want to sit in an energy space that brings me into fear and lack and uncertainty and unsafety and so on and so forth. I actually want to sit in a space of the things that are important to me, that I know are important to me. And I'm going to base my choices and my reasons for doing things on those, rather than blaming something external that completely disempowers me. And so I've been tuning into that more intuitive space of, okay, well, I'm choosing not to do these things because I value my health, or I'm choosing not to do these things because this is important to me, instead of reverting to what society is telling us right now, which is, COVID is the reason you can't do anything. And while that's certainly one element of it, it's not the full picture. Because each of us are choosing to, stay indoors and to socially isolate and socially distance and so on and so forth, because there's something that is important to us, or several things that are of value to us in that moment as a result of that. So I've been spending a lot more time being really, I'm calling it, watch your mouth, young lady. And each time I sit in that space of blaming COVID, it's like, watch your mouth, young lady. What is this really about? And if I connect intuitively into that space, actually, it's much more about the things that I value in and what I want, not only for right now, but what I want to create as part of my future as well. So I've pulled my power and my intuitive energy back from the COVID space, and I'm putting it back into my value space.
Brilliant. And Gabrielle, I'll just get to you in one second, but this brought up this idea that I have been sharing in my communities, I feel like since the beginning of time, is this capacity for compassion and curiosity. And although, it can go external to be looking outward to the individuals and the situations in our life and being curious about it and then being compassionate, but that going inward and that self-compassion, curious about your thoughts and your behaviors and your ideas, and then showing yourself the compassion necessary to be able to move through it. And so, we talked about this earlier about being sort of values driven. We're all values driven all the time, but in moments where we're kind of going into autopilot mode, our values are really determining our decisions. And, for those individuals who may be doing things that aren't the same as us, as other people right now. So for me, yes, I'm staying in my home and I'm social distancing or physical distancing. Others are not. And I hear it every day. How could they? And then I remember that whenever you hear that word, that statement, how could they? It's because they're being driven by different values and different sort of internal motivators and needs, and that are nothing we would have a clue about. So knowing that my left brain's like, logically, yes, I know how that works, to be able to apply that to myself and go, how could I have 2 drinks on a Tuesday night? How could I sit on my ass and not work for a week? Like, and then I go, oh, because there are different things driving the bus right now, different needs, different parts of myself that need to be met, fulfilled, listened to, understood, held space for, all of those things. And I think that the awareness is awesome. And then the action is crucial, right? So what am I going to do with this? You know what? I just get drunk on Tuesdays. That's an option. Or, what do I want to do instead? Right. So, so thank you for helping us to unpack that a little bit. And, because I think that is happening for so many people in different ways, and being able to sort of see, number one, that you're not alone. That I think I want to just change the name of my company to Honey, You're Not Alone. Because that seems to be the first thing I say to everybody. Oh yeah, honey, you are not alone. And then to be able to have some tools or some backing or some thoughts that you can apply. Oh, this was beautiful. Thank you. I love you. I love having you here. I wish you were here in my living room, getting drunk on a Tuesday. No, kidding. 'Cause it's Monday.
Monday instead.
Yeah. I appreciate you, and I appreciate everybody who's here, and thank you for sharing.
Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show. Join Dion again next week to learn more about what you can do to go from hot mess to awesomeness.